Silver Doctors live on air. Excited to have a chance to connect with you guys at the beginning of the week. And so my name is Mike, the co-host. I have my better half here, Mr. Paul Half Dollar. How you doing, Paul?
Doing good today. Happy Monday, Mike. It's nice to have another stream coming in during the week again.
Exactly. So as always, we're going to be talking about a variety of subject matters. And so Paul has a couple things you want to share. So do I. And of course, you guys also have things you want to share. So let us know what's on your mind. Of course, there's all types of things happening. So we'll try to get to as much as we can. Let us know in the chat, or there's a number, 567-336-0844. Give us a call, and let's talk about it. So, that being the case, Paul, we're here. Let's get right into it. First, I apologize. Let's acknowledge a couple people that's tuning in thus far. And see, so we got what is a name? We got Plata Piro, we got Pabar, we got Jane, we got Ross. Okay, so we got Damien, Michael Blue, okay, from Utah. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so Paul, take it away, my friend. What's on your mind this morning? What do you want to kick it off with?
Hey, hi. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Big weekend, big stuff happening over the weekend, Mike. Have you been following the strike on the Saudi Arabian oil facility?
Yes, I have. I've read a couple articles in the video, and so yeah, definitely. Let's give me your thoughts.
Okay, so here's my thoughts about that. Well, it's my working theory, right, that the deep state globalist plan is to bring max pain to the United States, and that's going to come in the fury of economic misery and financial ruin.
Yeah.
And I've been saying for months that the best way to do that, to really hit the Americans where it hurts the most, is to bring on the pain at the pump.
Right.
And, I just find it, somewhat of a coincidence that this is going on right now, because just since Friday, the price of oil closed at $55, and last night when the markets opened back up in the United States, oil spiked and popped above $60. I'm looking at above $61 right now. So we've had a 10% move in the price of oil just overnight, basically. Yeah. So higher gas prices are coming. Mm-hmm. What it's all coming from is from this attack, right? Yeah. So supposedly, who knows what the real details are. What we're told is that there was an attack on a Saudi Arabian oil facility. Now, this is like supposedly the largest oil processing facility in Saudi Arabia. So it's substantial, and it's going to have an impact on the markets. Mm-hmm. Now, the United States, to specifically name Mike Pompeo, to specifically name Lindsey Graham, all the traditional warmongers, right? Like people who thought, oh, we're draining the swamp by getting rid of John Bolton. No, I mean, all that's doing is just trying to justify a war with Iran a little more, because it's not Bolton leading the charge.
Yeah.
But still, Pompeo's in there leading the charge. Lindsey Graham's in there leading the charge, saying Iran did this, we must strike back. Lindsey Graham actually said we need to strike Iran's oil sector he said to,
really?
He used the word regime, he said, to break the back of the regime.
Oh, really? So just stop, Robert. I mean, interrupt. So off of the idea of attacking their oil, so that takes even more oil off the market to where that's even more of a problem. So why would you suggest attacking their oil will be my initial question.
Yeah, well, we've already got serious sanctions on Iran, so I guess the logic is, if oil's the only way that Iran can get any income coming in, well, we're going to cut out their income by destroying oil. But that's not my point. My point is that, you're talking about, like, if there's already an impact on the oil supplies worldwide because of this, and on top of that, you're talking about attacking Iran, but that's just the oil aspect. That doesn't get into the whole, we could be on the brink of, World War III right here.
Right.
That's another aspect of it.
Right.
And then there's the aspect of, like, who actually did the attack, right? The United States is adamant in saying that it's Iran, and then some people kind of backtracking it a little bit and saying, well, it's the Houthis in Yemen, and, they were under the guidance of Iran. They had their, munitions and all this and all that.
Now, let me share this. So, okay, initially, from what I heard Saturday, the Yemenis, Houthi, whatever, came out acknowledging that they did it. Then Saudi Arabia said we'll need 48 hours to figure out, do an investigation so we can see who probably, whatever. Now, I got an article right here that says the U.S. tells Saudi Arabia oil attacks were launched from Iran. So it went from somebody claiming responsibility from it in Yemen to the Saudis saying they need 48 hours to figure it out for themselves. Now, wouldn't they know best who attacked them, given the fact it was on their land? But now, today, this morning, right now, it says U.S. tells. So we just told Saudi Arabia, hey, Iran attacked you. And then, Trump tweeted, we got everything locked and loaded, so yeah.
Yeah, and on top of that, there was like these pictures like early Saturday afternoon when this came out, or actually it was Saturday morning, I think, because I did an article about it real quick. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is big.
Yeah.
And like it showed like some debris scattered in the desert. And it was like and it was like some Saudi Arabian news agency or something. It was like, see, this is proof that Iran attacked us. And it was like a little wing and like I don't know the tip of a missile. I don't know what exactly it was, but it's like none of the sand was disturbed around it. It's like it could all conveniently fit in these two SUVs that were in the background of the picture, like they were just props that were brought on scene or something.
Yeah.
So, who knows who's really behind this attack and exactly how much damage was done.
Yeah.
But, the point is, this creates a ton of uncertainty. So there's two reasons that this is putting a floor under the price of metals, or as I like to say, this is just one of the factors and several factors which to me are signaling higher prices ahead, possibly as early as this week. Because, one thing is oil is a major input cost in the mining of gold and silver production. So it's just at its bare minimum, if you have rising oil prices, you have a rising cost of production for gold and silver. That's number one. And then number two, it's just a whole uncertainty thing, right? Because you don't know what additional kind of sanctions are going to come down the pike because of this. You don't know if other nations are going to either oppose what the U.S. is doing in Iran, then Iran is going to sanction those nations. So that means, we're going to get the heck away from this dollar again because it's still being weaponized. Not only that, but it's being escalated even more. So we're going to move into gold. So there's just all of these factors, just the uncertainty in general, right? So there's all these factors going on related to this attack on this oil facility. And it's not funny. It's sad, right? Because if you look at CNN, they're just talking about Brett Kavanaugh. He said, she said, Brett Kavanaugh. And if you look at Fox, they're talking about Brett Kavanaugh. And I don't even know what went down. Apparently something in the New York Times was libel, or maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But the point is, we're on the point of war, and they're talking about some he said, she said stuff in the mainstream.
Right. Well, I saw the Kavanaugh stuff because it was trending heavily on Twitter, and so from what I gathered, it looks like a new allegation of some type of, I think, some type of sexual situation or whatever. So I'll validate that. But once again, so much stuff going on. It looks like I'd imagine that. This is all prior to Wednesday as well. So then the question will be, how will the Federal Reserve take this information if it's war? And then one thing I did notice, of which I can actually pull up, let me see if I can pull it up. While all this is happening, on the screen here it says defense stocks rise as Trump says the U.S. is locked and loaded in response to Saudi oil attack. So the defensive stocks, going through the roof right now. So it's time to make money. I smell war. So
bombs are expensive.
Bombs are expensive, and of course, death and destruction is very profitable for those that started it. So
it is.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you that I trolled the guy who came up with the formula for the GDP now at the Atlanta Fed? And I sent him an email, and I was like, hey, I noticed GDP isn't that great, but if we went to war, that would be totally awesome for GDP, right? And I was trolling him, and I didn't expect a reply. And he replied back. I wish I had this email. This was years ago, and I'd have to look for it. But he was like, the Fed has a couple studies talking about that. And he pointed me to two Fed studies, and they showed war stimulates 12 or 14 quarters of economic growth. Quarters, not months, but quarters. You're talking about war stimulates several years of economic growth.
Yeah.
But, obviously it's the corrupt kind of growth where it's going to the military-industrial complex more than anything else,
Yeah. Yeah, so
so it makes total sense that the defense stocks are surging right now.
Yeah, and watch this. I grabbed one of President Trump's tweet. I think it was from yesterday, but it talked about, this is before. So this is Sunday's narrative. It says Saudi Arabia oil supply was attacked. There is reason to believe that we know the culprit, are locked and loaded depending on verification. So yesterday, President Trump was being patient. He's waiting. He said, we know who they are, but we're going to wait and make sure it's verified. I'm assuming that was a time frame where Saudi Arabia said it need 48 hours. And so we go from this narrative to today as we know. So we're going to tell you who it was. And once again, and depending on how fast they speed this up by being locked and loaded, and if they actually interact with Iran next 48 hours on our part, it will be very poorly done because, once again, you know how in prior situations, especially in Syria, how Russia always came out the day before with some visualization from some map type of thing saying where it actually happened at. So I'd imagine the U.S. is ready to really fire something now before Russia or China could come out with some type of verification of their own that shows a different story.
Great point. They have both been silent. You have not heard anything about Russia and China on this at all.
Yeah,
at all. And then part of it is because, they are basically not, right, they're basically like not following the U.S. sanctions when it comes to Iran, right? Mm-hmm. Like China's purchasing oil and, they're developing business relationships, right? They'd rather say, let's get along instead of blowing things up and killing people, right? Yeah. So, but that silence is an interesting point you bring up there, Mike, definitely.
Yes, sir. I'd imagine that, okay, go ahead.
And that's just one, and see, what I wrote about this morning, and there's just like 4 big things that are going on this week that are pointing to higher gold and silver prices to me. And this whole Saudi oil facility attack, that's only one of the things. That's only one of the things. And there's actually more than 4. There's just 4 main themes that I was focusing on.
Yeah, or 4 things that comes to mind right away because so I got a couple other things I want to talk about as well. So, but before we move any further, because once again, me and you are going back and forth, and we forgot we have people watching us, and that's how time flies sometimes. But let's acknowledge people in the chat. And as always, if you really want to get in on the conversation, you should probably give us a call, 567-336-0844, so we will have to address you, or in the chat at Silver Doctors, so it'll stand out and we can definitely answer it. So, acknowledge a couple more people. We got Jane from France. We got Ross. It says SD Bullion needs an app to keep inventory and track increases and loss compared to fiat or other placed orders. That's not a bad idea. We can pass that on.
Yeah.
Pass it on.
Yep.
What else we got going on here? We got Hi from Ireland. We got Columbus, Ohio. It says wine is strong. Montana. So this is bad. I mean, get caught up to the feed. And so it says, what's happening? It says Netanyahu is desperate to avoid criminal prosecution. So that's the whole Israeli situation there. And definitely, I wouldn't doubt that if that nation has something to do with this as well.
And that's an interesting one from Roy Boy Golf. This new he's talking about the Kavanaugh. This new allegation is in reality an old allegation that was already debunked. So that kind of like backs off of my point where it's just like showing that it's just this distractionary thing right now while all of this chaos is going on and about to be unleashed in the Middle East.
Yeah. Okay. So we do have a call. Let's see if we can get this. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from? Jeff from St. Paul, Minnesota. How you doing, my friend? What's on your mind this afternoon?
Well, I just had a question. I bought a bunch of miners about 2 months ago, right at the bottom, and I'm starting to get somewhat concerned, I guess is the word, as to if these things go up. Like, should I put these things in direct registration, instead of having them a street name?
Good question, Paul. I am not personally familiar with that process you're referring to. Paul, do you happen to have any information to share?
I don't. Whenever I trade, and remember, I have not placed a single trade all year. So I'm actually pretty proud about that. But I use TD Ameritrade. And like me personally, just what I would do, I would not be worried one way or another because, when I have been trading, I traded some last year. My trading account ended up like 2.6%. But so it wasn't that big. But or no, that was 2017. I can't remember what last year was. But if I was trading these and the metal started moving and the miners started moving a lot, more than likely what I would do would be want to move in and out of those positions anyway. So that's really not the kind of trader that I am as far as like a buy and hold and get it registered and take possession of like the certificates if they even do that and things of that nature. Because especially when it comes to these digital markets and digital paper fiat, you want to be nimble in there. So, whatever the brokerage firm does, which in my case is TD Ameritrade, and I'm sure they're all similar, who knows if that share of First Majestic is in both your name and in my name and in his name and in everybody else's name. I mean, I don't know, but all I know is for now, you can get in and out of these stocks okay. So I wouldn't look at it as a big concern, but that's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Thoughts, Mike?
I will ride along with that because I'm not familiar at all with that particular industry. So, caller, does that kind of help or not?
Yeah, it does. I guess my concern was, if there's money printing and the stock market hyperinflates, it might be a good thing to have something in like some miners, just to kind of keep some money in the system, so to speak, and be able to use that, to buy a house, for example, something like that.
Yeah, that's a valid point, and I think that's a good point, and I think that's a valid strategy. Me personally, however they set it up at the brokerage firms online, I would just keep it at that because that's just the easiest way to do it. And, if there's not a lot of configuring, like by me on my part, then because if I start tinkering with like all of these little things, then there's a chance that I might mess something up. So just let the brokerage firm keep things set up how they are, and I'll just buy and sell when I want, and that's what I focus on. So that's another point there that I'd like to make.
All right. Well, Jeff, I appreciate you calling in, my friend. Hopefully that helps. And definitely, this is not financial advice. So please consult people who are actually licensed and professionals in our department, and take it with a grain of salt. But I appreciate you calling, my friend. Thank you.
Yes, and I've blown up a trading account. So, but then again, if you talk to the legendary investors and traders out there, they say that you're not a trader unless you do. So, at least I've paid my tuition to the market there.
Yeah, man. Me personally, I've never got into it. I just stick to what I know, and I stick with the physical. And that's my approach moving forward to this next decade. It's not really focused on profiting off of other people's losses, but just persevering what I have and adding more value and focusing on cash flow personally. So. That's my strategy. But anyway, so I got a couple calls I missed. Feel free to call back and we get you in here. And so we can move on to a couple more points here. And so we got false flag opportunity. And so a question is from Harry. It says, who runs the Exchange Stabilization Fund?
Who exactly runs it, I don't know, but it's under the Department of Treasury at treasury.gov, and it is under the direction of the president. The question is, are they telling the president what to do or not? That's the question, right? Like, is Trump a puppet, and who's pulling those strings?
Yeah.
So that's who runs the Exchange Stabilization Fund right now.
I would imagine it's definitely not our prior presidents usually just go according to what they're told from whoever gives them instructions. So I would imagine, whatever name they use the deep state, the elite, whatever they use, those are probably the ones that have the actual keys or passwords to get in those accounts. But we have a call, so let me get to this call. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, it's Typo from Massachusetts. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Typo from Massachusetts. What's on your mind this afternoon?
I'm wondering when it comes to miners, when you see an uptick in the cost of oil and the price of oil, I'm wondering how long it takes to see that in the miners' reaction for raising and falling. Does it take you? Are we talking 3 months or 6 months, or is it instant? Did they increase their price?
Right, that is a very good question there, and I would imagine it'll probably take some time to show up, because I would assume if they're a legitimate establishment that they have some capital, they got some reserve, they got some energy and stuff saved up so that they don't run into conditions like these. So I would imagine it takes some time, but once again, a lot of people aren't too profitable in this environment nowadays because of policies. So they could be literally check to check, barrel to barrel. And it could be problematic. So that's my thoughts and my opinion. Paul, you got any thoughts there?
Yeah, and in addition to that, they're hedging, right? So they're placing, and I don't know the specific intricacies, but it's the same thing as the airline industries. They're going to have a contract for like at least a year out where they're hedging at a certain price. So they could already be hedged at basically, when they're getting all their diesel and stuff, they could be hedged at what was a $55 a barrel price of oil at the time. So as prices going up, they're still paying that price because that's what they hedged at for the following year. Now, whether they're hedging 1 year out, 5 years out, 6 months out, that's another thing. So yes, these things would take their time to work their way through. Right now, with silver above $18, you're above the cost of production for the majority of the miners now. So that's a good thing in the sense that, they're not going to be losing money right away. So they're still going to be profitable even as the prices start to go up. But then the question comes down to, what did they specifically do to hedge against the potential for increasing oil? I think they're buying oil 1 year out at a time. But I haven't dug into quarterly reports in a while either. So,
yeah. Typo, appreciate you calling in. All right, keep it moving. I think, I think she's gone. Okay, go ahead. So we keep it moving.
So now we have point one done. Point two, the FOMC, that's Wednesday, right? And
Yes.
President Trump is still out there today talking about, we got to cut interest rates. We got, our interest rates are too high. We got no inflation. We've got a very strong dollar, and it's hurting exports. What is that telling us, Mike?
Yeah. Okay, sorry to cut you off, but we have a call, and so I'll comment on that. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from? Hello? Hi there. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, yeah, my name is George. I'm calling from Vegas.
George from Vegas. How you doing, George? What's on your mind this afternoon or morning for you?
Well, I was thinking, in order for them to actually, they're trying everything in the world to get Trump out of office. And I think trying to crash the economy would be the ultimate deal there. So maybe the deep state hit them oil fields to crash the economy to get our president out of office.
That is a possibility. At this point, I'm open to any thoughts or ideas because we don't know. We will find out. But yet, we know that the powers that be present that they're not for President Trump and all that confusion back and forth. But as Paul probably would say that, Trump's in on it anyway, type of narrative. I'm like, either way it could go. Who knows? But that is a good point.
Yeah, well, whether Trump's in on it or not, I still think that is the plan to crash the economy.
Yeah.
To bring the U.S. down. So yeah, that's a great point there.
Yeah. What else you gotta say?
Yes, I got it. Thank you, guys. Okay, I love the show, man. Guys, stay on there. Keep it up.
Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you. Did you see what happened in the price of, or not in the price, did you see what happened with the 10-year after we finished our show? It got up to like 1.9% come Friday. So it has moved. Think about this, Mike, and this kind of ties into the interest rates and the FOMC. Silver went up 30% over 3 months, and people are like, oh my gosh, it's gone parabolic. This is crazy. We're going to have the most massive correction in the history of corrections. Well, the 10-year note went up 30% in 2 weeks when it came to the yield on the 10-year, Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, so what I wrote on Friday is, remember last Wednesday I was saying it's amazing how gold and silver have been hanging in here with these rising interest rates.
Yeah.
Well, on Friday it was just too much, and we got over like 1.87 or something like that, and just gold and silver could not hold on anymore, and they finally got pounded into oblivion. Gold lost 15, silver lost 18. And then this weekend happened. But it just goes to show you that is a massive move in yield in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it is. And so we were on pace prior to the recent events and just the markets fluctuating to get everyone's extremely excited. Well, I think it was 2 weeks ago, wasn't it, when it got to like $19 or
1975.
1975. So everyone at that current moment, it felt good. Everybody thought it was whoop. But once again, they found a way somehow to work the markets and everybody, all this confusion, found a way to bring it down a little bit and to deflate people's hopes.
Yes. It was September 5th when they started ramping yield on the 10-year. That's how they did it this time, right? So, there's always a reason, and we always know in hindsight, like, what that reason is. Mm-hmm. And, when it went from 1.42 to 1.6, people were like, oh, this is it. But gold and silver was hanging in, and then it was just too much come Friday at the end of the week. So, but it's interesting because now we're at like 1.9. Let me see where interest rates are right now. But, we're close to, if the Fed cuts 25 basis points, I don't think that the yield with the spread between the Fed funds rate and the 10-year will be inverted anymore. But it depends, obviously, where it is on Wednesday.
Yeah, I think as of now, that if they cut just a minimum of a quarter, that'll take us below 2.
Yes,
because we're already at two, and we're already at two of a 2/10. I think I saw something like that because that will fluctuate a little very early. So we'll definitely be below 2. And so I read an article recently where I think it was someone calculating how long it would take to get us into NERP if they did it incrementally, like the way it appears they might do. But even though the president yelling for major and bigger cuts, so it was like by next summer, I think. If they stayed at this pace, we would be at 0 in the 0 ballpark. And so the question is, can they afford to wait that long to try to keep this, keep our president happy, not on their own? Because eventually, if the economy continues to get worse and President Trump feels slightly threatened that it's going to harm his second term, he's going to do something drastic. I believe he'll probably challenge his executive authority and somehow to try to get Jerome Powell out of the way right away, or declare an emergency. I don't know if you can, but declare a national emergency and decide to take over the role of the Federal Reserve on some extreme measures that's never been done in the last 106 years. But I think our president is that type of bold, crazy gentleman that would be willing to do something like that, shock everybody, and everything will go haywire for real.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the Fed is talking about we want to get out in front of the next recession because of global concerns and the trade war, right? So they're talking about acting preemptively, right?
Yeah.
Just this morning in relation to crude oil in Saudi Arabia, President Trump said something like in a tweet, like, I have authorized the release of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
So it's like, it's like saying, well, I might have diabetes and it might cause me to lose my leg, so I'm just going to go ahead and amputate my leg now. I mean, there's a reason it's a strategic petroleum reserve, right? It comes down to this whole like prepper survivalist type of thing that we've lost track of over the years, which is, having a reserve of things is important, and you don't use it until it's an absolute emergency. So just based on the fact that oil prices might grow up, we're going to release that strategic petroleum reserve now. It's like, come on, Right.
That is interesting. And so I wonder, will we see? Okay, let's put a little bet out there, because I'm thumbing through it now. But what's the likelihood that we'll get a tweet from President Trump today or tomorrow referencing how strong our economy is? So I'm curious to find out, because heading to Wednesday, I'm sure we got to hear that somehow, some way, amongst this war talk, amongst the Fed, among all this, situation. He has to throw out a tweet about how strong the economy is. So I'm curious to find out. I throw it out there. Let us know in the chat. Will it be today, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday? I think those 3 days that's 72 hours. And so what's the likelihood we get one to Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday? And so for those that are watching, if you want to chime in on this, feel free to let us know in the chat if you believe it all or not, or disagree. Let me know in the chat. I'm curious to find out what you guys think. So I'm sorry about that, Paul. That came to mind, so I had to share that one.
No, that was great. And actually, you have to start from right now going forward, because I'm pretty sure that there has been something like that already.
I see fake news. I see General Motors and UAW comment. I see Saudi Arabia, and so this is as of 19 hours ago. So
now we're the number one energy producer in the world. That was 4 hours ago. So interesting there.
So look like we're on the Trump tweet watch, looking for his next tweet, because any tweet that he give between now and Wednesday could rattle the market, shake the markets, clap the markets, or bolster the markets through the roof.
Yes, definitely, and especially with these kind of shocks and movements in the market, like with that crude oil. I mean, it was a major gap up here overnight.
Yeah. All right. So
that okay.
Okay. So sorry to cut you off. We got a call. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Pat from Alabama. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good. Pat from Alabama. How you doing, my friend?
Doing just fine. I want to inject some sanity where there is too much hype.
Okay, go ahead.
They hit that oil facility, which represents 5% of total oil for the world.
Mm-hmm.
The Saudis have massive above-ground oil supplies that they're shipping out. It really works out to a 2.5% drop in our overall oil that we have available for us, which is really nothing in the world. And if you look at it, you got people crying to sell oil, Libya and everybody else, all the way down to Nigeria, Brazil, and Mexico. So there's much to do about nothing here.
Yeah, I just off hearing your explanation and breakdown of how much oil that comes from other nations, that definitely sounds like a good analysis there. And so the chit chatter happens to do with the Middle Eastern conflict is already underway. So just the very fact that Saudi Arabia, who was the originator of the Petrodollar system, is being attacked. Our whole agreement with them is to defend them. And so regardless of whoever blew up whatever, it's just great news, and we're right in our war time zone where it seems like it's ideal for the media to grab onto this and run, regardless of those numbers you threw out about the true state of the oil supply above ground. So I think that's just the season we're in because we need some diversions of some kind, and what's better than, as always, going to war, unfortunately.
Then a good war and you kill some people.
Unfortunately, that's how it goes. Paul, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it sounds like it's an insignificant amount, 5%, 2.5%. Sure, it's a small percentage. It is, in fact, a measurable percentage. It's not a rounding error. Here's my thoughts about that, though. And I've suspected this for a long time, right? Since going back to 2013, actually. But I think that for many, many years, the way that they were funding all of this mayhem in the Middle East through this whole ISIS thing, the rise and then the subsequent fall of ISIS, was through black market oil sales. And if you remember, even a few years back, the son of Erdogan or somebody important in Turkey was saying how they were illegally selling oil, channeling it through Syria and all this and all that. But I personally feel that the above ground supplies of oil are not as stout as everybody is making them out to be, because I think a lot of that oil was sold onto the market to fund these black ops in the Middle East. And that's been going on since 2014, and it coincides perfectly with the decline in the price of oil from the middle of 2015 and the strengthening of the dollar. So if you flood the market with illegal oil, you got to get a lower price for that oil, and it just brings the whole prices down in general. So I don't know. I'm not so sure that the world is quite as awash in above ground oil as the numbers are showing, but it's just a theory of mine, and I can't prove it one way or another. But yes, 5%, but I do think that the add-on effects, and in addition to that, the other factors, not so much for oil, but I'm looking at it in relation to the prices of gold and silver. This hit to the oil sector is just one of the bullish fundamentals for gold and silver right now. So those would be my thoughts on it, Mike.
I agree with you. It is bullish for gold and silver right now.
Yeah, Pat, you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
I agree that it's great for gold and silver. I'm just saying that we're still awash in oil. People want to sell oil everywhere. We got to develop them and bring them forward.
Yeah, and keep in mind we're sitting on.
I really enjoyed talking with you.
I appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for calling. All right, you too.
Thanks. And Steve St. Angelo was just out with a new article about how shale oil, right, in the United States basically has has stalled for the whole first half of 2019. So, there was an incredible push in the last 2 years to ramp up U.S. shale oil production, and that has now hit a brick wall. And then the problems coming down the pike are by, I think it's 2022 or 2024. There's almost 183, 138 billion dollars worth of shale oil debt that has to be rolled over. So, there's a whole lot of supply that could be coming offline as well when it comes to that if they can't get the funding.
Yeah, so I would agree 100%. And so we're gonna find out. And so it's just more. This is just more noise, more distraction away from our true economic issues, which happens to be debt and the issuers of debt and their lack of control or inability to keep this debt-based system going, because that's what all this boils down to. It's not red, it's not blue, it's all about the green. And we've been conditioned to believe that the Federal Reserve note is the anchor of life because it's what we all know as a dollar, but yet that's all being challenged right now, big time.
Yes.
So let's get into the chat, or unless you want to comment on that, let's get to the chat and find out what else is going on. And also, people who are calling in, appreciate you guys calling in and sharing your thoughts. And if you've enjoyed the back and forth thus far, don't be afraid to donate a thumbs up beneath this video. Just show your support for the channel.
Also, real quick before we do that, we haven't heard, the fourth point is we haven't heard anything about the trade war with China that much, right, in the past week. There was actually a truce talking about, they were calling them gestures of goodwill and stuff like that last week.
Yeah.
So my point at the end of last week was that on Friday, I think that they're losing the ability to keep all these plates spinning in the air at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Or like a juggler. They're not going to be able to keep these balls all being juggled at the same time because they can only do so much. So the attacks on the Fed are dollar negative and gold and silver bullish, but at the same time, so is escalating the trade war. So notice what did not get escalated and in fact got de-escalated last week. But just this week and just today, the EU is talking about President Trump's about to come out with some tariffs against the European Union here pretty soon. Yeah. So, this is that third point about the bullish fundamental reasons why I think gold and silver could take off here again sooner than later, because it looks like we're about to see more escalation in the trade war. And it's not even from the Chinese front, but it's on the European front.
Yeah. So I pulled up an article. I typed in just trade war, see what popped up. And this is an article from Financial Times within the last 4 hours. And it says, forget a trade war. Say that 20% move implies real war. And so I'm assuming this is a article in relation to the whole oil situation. So it looks like perhaps this trade war will be downplayed slightly, because now the threats of real war, as far as missiles and all that other stuff, is probably definitely a lot more important in the sense of mainstream news. So yeah, real war. So skip the trade war, I guess. They're gonna say skip the trade war. Let's go for a real war.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, this is unbelievable. And so since we're talking, I want to just chime in another unfortunate event that happens to be occurring at a time where it's not necessarily something that people would really even know how much it will impact them, and it happens to be the whole GM situation. And so as of yesterday, GM decided to, the UAW rather, decided not to go with a proposal given by GM. So I got an article pulled up right here. It says 50,000 union workers walk out over wages and idled plants. And so I'm thinking, like, this is extremely bad timing, because not only is automotive sales not doing that well, we got a situation with oil now, which will also impact the automotive sector. But then we got people deciding to walk out on their job because they want more wages, better health care, or stuff like that, at a time where GM is already laying off thousands of people. And so it's just not good that you run the risk of losing your job by trying to get more wages at this time. So let me cut this down. All right, but we have a call, Paul, so let me get this call in, and then we can go from there. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
What's up, guys? George from Florida. How are you?
I'm doing good. We got George from Florida, I heard.
What's up, man? I'm also the guy that did the Kavanaugh comment, but I have a couple questions. First of all, the stuff that's going on in Saudi Arabia, we know there's like $1.2 quadrillion in oil derivatives. Mm-hmm. So let's say somebody's trying to bring down the system. What happens if they, maybe a false flag event or something like that? What happens? What's the implications for those 1.2 quadrillion in assets? And then the second thing would be the meeting in Jackson Hole last week. The guys were talking about basically coming up with a new centralized digital currency, a cryptocurrency. But they also wanted to be able to manage international fiscal policy once they've implemented this crypto stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and hang up and listen to y'all's response, man. I love the stuff, man. I'm really just watching. So
I appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for calling. All right, so we have another. Okay, we'll wait on that call. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Fiscal policy thing is interesting because it's not just monetary policy now; it's meshing government spending with the monetary policy from that. And he's referring to the Mark Carney thing where he was calling for like the Libra-like cryptocurrency over at Jackson Hole, Wyoming. But yeah, not only do they want to tell the governments how the monetary system is going to be, but it's also how you can spend your money. Mm-hmm. That's a scary notion.
Yeah, and so it's interesting he mentioned that, and so it was a two-part question. The first part, you do remember the first part? The first question he asked about
just about the quadrillion dollars in oil derivatives blowing up.
Okay, so I put up an article. So I'm sorry, a little confused. I put up an article here because the second question he mentioned, this article came to mind here, and it's about it says Facebook and J.P. Morgan meets with global central banks to discuss cryptocurrencies, and so as of today, Facebook and J.P. Morgan, it's written as if they're leading the way to then sit out in front of central banks from around the world and discuss how they can probably all work together to usher us into the next world order of a single source currency labeled as a stable coin, but issued and overran by the same people that currently run our monetary system now. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, how is anybody even thinking that this is a good thing, right? You've got SPY Inc., merging with, bad bank and telling the central banks what to do. I mean, this is the disaster. This is a recipe for disaster. This is just, total invasion of privacy combined with total theft of our money with whatever is left. So that's just, bad all around. People are probably cheering this on, though, saying, oh, this is great. They're merging and they're talking to the central banks. So this is what should be happening. No, this isn't what should be happening at all.
Yeah, so this is interesting and so think about all the monetary issues that we're currently facing outside of the geopolitical events, outside of the domestic slash personal economy, personal finance issues we're dealing with. Now we have, the central banks, the leading central bank this week debating on whether or not they're going to cut a quarter or more because it's baked into the cake they're going to be cutting. But then we have, a social media giant, Facebook, leading the way in all social, in everybody's business for the most part. They're talking now with one of the two big to fail banks that is responsible for the very system we're a part of, and they're connecting and trying to configure an idea how they can transition us out of paper. So paper was our last line of defense. It's our last line of defense in its current paradigm. Even though it's lost a lot of value, it's still legal tender, still spins. But now they're trying to bring in something to remove that in the midst of us probably going to negative. So I want to throw out a little possible hypothesis of what could happen. Between now and next year, give or take, Facebook and JP Morgan, the government says, okay, we'll give it a try. Why not? We got nothing to lose but our jobs and power in general. So let's try something. At the same time, the Fed decides to go negative. So we got cash as a problem. And so imagine them introducing a digital backed stable, whatever, to give us confidence. At the same time, they're taking away and taxing us on cash and savings deposits. Does that sound like that's something could be in play, possibly?
Yes, although I don't think the government would acknowledge that it's Facebook and JP Morgan. Like, the government would make it as if it was their own thing, right? Yeah. So, because I think that still a lot of people would be not comfortable with the idea that Facebook and JP Morgan are now going to be in charge of what is our money. As much as, because the other thing is a lot of this stuff around the internet has to do with like the newer generations, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of people that are 50 and above that are saying, are you crazy? They're the same people that think that nothing's ever going to happen to the dollar. Mm-hmm. But the point is one and the same. That would be a hard sell for the government to do. But it's not to say the government wouldn't do it. And I think the government will try it, but it'll just be the government acting as if it was a known development on the government side of things. Maybe using consulting from Facebook and JP Morgan.
Yeah, I do agree. So once again, we will find out how this plays out. But I want to make sure. So, did we answer our callers' questions?
Oh, the one about the derivatives and oil.
So, because the derivative, well, go ahead. I didn't comment on the derivatives part, but go ahead.
No, I mean, they're valid points. I wouldn't really know how to even begin to comment on it, just because it's so huge, and the oil market isn't something I follow as closely as like I do with gold and silver. So I would not be qualified to comment on one way or another, other than the fact that that's the thing about derivatives, right? Derivatives can have substantial losses, and you could have derivatives products that you don't even know that there's derivatives in there, which could be causing the losses, right? So it's like kind of like the fact that, when you think of like subprime and the blow-ups, and you got all this junk-rated stuff wrapped up in a bow and sold as investment grade, and these are just derivatives on top of derivatives, and everybody's got a little bit of risk, but the whole system just goes down,
Yeah. And so while you mentioned that, what came to mind about derivatives and the amount of risk and just danger that all that will bring or has brung, I want to actually put up an article on SD Bullion. It's from July with the extra pyramid. Just this article here, just this, here, the Financial Crisis Protection John Extra Pyramid, it lets you know what's going to be a problem. And this is at the very top. Who actually knows what the actual nominal number is other than 1 quadrillion? That's what we were told or been able to put together. But at the very top of this pyramid is the most risk. And so however, if you're interconnected in that world, and you're exposed to stuff at the very top, the closer you are to the top, the more risk you take on, the more you have to lose. The further you go down to the bottom, the more stable you'll be as far as actually holding something tangible and physical that you personally own. That's just my 2 cents there. Mm-hmm. But, Paul, we got a call, so we'll get your thoughts on that. But we have a call, and then we can go back to that if you want. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
How you doing, guys? Low blood pressure, Corpus Christi, Texas.
Low blood pressure. How you doing, my friend? What's on your mind this afternoon?
I'm good.
crisis, if you want to call it that.
Okay, go ahead.
The crisis, guys, I think the crisis is that oil is too low. You know, Gregory Mandarino talked about it. If you go to the U.S. debt clock, you can see oil to dollar is about $19, and it's destroying the economy. I think Saudi maybe blew up their own, or the U.S., they blew up their own oil wells to try to boost up this price because there's too much oil. You got Iran, you got Venezuela, you got all over the world. There's too much oil.
Low blood pressure. That's a great thought there, Paul. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a difficult balance, and it is a valid point because, yes, there's two prices, and it's either too low or too high depending on where you sit on it. So right now you got prices that are too low for the oil companies, but you get to $100 a barrel, and then you got oil that's too high for consumers. So it's like we're really in this massive pickle here, and it's not going to end well. And it has to do with the fact that I keep coming back to week after week that our whole monetary system is corrupt. And that's what it comes down to. We've blown everything into such extremes that it's hard to know, you know, where the price should be in relation to what it is now. But yeah, the oil companies are getting killed. But, you know, I don't know. I think that there's going to be less oil going forward. I wouldn't say I'm 100% a peak oil guy myself, but I'm like 90-some% there, you know, because I do think that, you know, production is coming down, as shown in the numbers where they've plateaued now. And because if you look at like the rates of production at like these shale oil wells and stuff like that, like they start off strong and then they decline really, really fast. And then they're just basically, you know, barely sustaining just what it costs that they get out of the oil to keep those little donkey heads and all these fracks, you know, producing, right? So, and then pretty soon it's going to be more expensive than the oil that they can get out of the ground. Yeah. So yeah, I see a future that's kind of bleak when it comes to the energy situation myself. But yeah, it's rough because right now the oil companies are struggling. You need to get that price of oil up for the oil companies. Then the consumers are going to be struggling because it's going to be too high because there's inflation all around us that the government denies. Right. Just today, Trump saying no inflation. But those are good points, low blood pressure.
Low blood pressure. Any more thoughts you want to share with us?
Yeah, I wanted to say one more thing. All this about oil being illegal oil and all that, you know how they say terrorism, they sell oil illegally or whatever. All that has to have government intervention. There's no way you can have an oil tanker extracting oil, selling it, all the accounting that goes into it. There's too many people involved. Every time people sell illegal oil, it's got to have some kind of government backing or there's something suspicious going on because it's not that easy to just sell an oil tanker and you know, hide the money and do all that kind of thing.
Right. And another thing is we got all these agencies that keep an eye on everything supposedly terrorism stuff. How come they're not watching and keeping eyes on corruption in the form of tankers being filled up and carried across and that stuff not show up as being something that's actually kind of weird. But hey, low blood pressure. Appreciate you calling, my friend. Sorry.
Yeah, when I say black market oil sales, I'm also talking that, yes, I do think that the U.S. government, like the deep state globalists embedded in the U.S. government for their own personal profit motive and to fulfill their evil tendencies, I think that is involved. So I would agree completely, you know, and I think that for most things, not just oil, right? So when it comes to the problems of all of this drug smuggling back and forth, yes, the U.S. government's involved. Human trafficking, yes, the U.S. government is involved. I'm not saying it's the official government policy. I'm just saying it's in the government that makes it happen. And in addition, I do think that there is black ops going on as a way to fund these black ops to continue propagating the U.S. hegemony throughout the world, if that even makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. So, Paul, let's check in with the chat, and then we're approaching the 50-minute point, and so we're going to get ready to dial back. But let's go through the chat, and if anybody want to get a last-minute call or two in, feel free to do so, because if not, there's so much stuff going on that we can probably talk for hours. But once again, everyone has, I'm sure, things to get back to. So let's get into the chat or give us a call, and we can get you on here. And let me see what pops up here. I got beans and rice highlighted silver doctors, but give us a question or a thought. Give us a thought out there. What else we got here? We talk about some about pension funds. And so Pablo Pina says, where does crypto seat in the Exter's pyramid? Paul, I'll let you touch on that one.
Well, you know, I don't even believe in cryptos at all, right? I was thinking about something that, like, you know, you remember BlackBerry, right? And it's like, And it's like, that was the company, right? And
Yeah.
the technology was basically like smartphones, if you could think of smartphones as a technology.
Yeah.
Kind of like email's a technology, right? But
Yeah.
you use Gmail to use it, right? Google's a company,
Mhm.
right? So like Bitcoin, that's like a company, right? And like blockchain is the technology. So, I mean, I don't see, and furthermore, we already have cryptocurrency, right? All that is a fancy way of saying, money that's encrypted. Well, every single thing is encrypted, right? If you send email from Gmail to Gmail, that's encrypted end to end,
Yeah.
right? So, it's just, when we say a pre-owned car instead of a used car, it's just a different side of the same coin.
Yeah.
But, we already have digital, electronically encrypted currency, and it's fiat and it's unbacked. So,
So
I have nothing wrong with gold-backed cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And that's basically my position on it.
Okay, so if you were to look at this pyramid, I'm not sure if you have access on your screen now.
I know the pyramid you're talking about.
Yeah, where would you list Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, as people are referring to it as, on this chart? Where is there anywhere you would want to put it? Is it risky at the top, or is it lower risk at the bottom?
No, it's definitely risky at the top, because not only is it not money, not only is it not currency, right?
Yeah.
Not only is it highly speculative, not only is it highly volatile, but it can also be under complete control of the U.S. government, right? Remember
complete control?
Right? Huh?
You say complete control?
Yeah, as far as government shutting it down.
Yeah.
Because you have to have Bitcoin's network. Bitcoin's proven to be hacked, right? They're talking about now they can get those Bitcoins back that were stolen from Mt. Gox. Well, hello, I thought once it was on the ledger, it was already on the ledger. There's just so many things one way or another that I don't like about Bitcoin in general.
Yeah.
Satoshi Nakamoto, right? He's some, programmer sitting at the basement of the NSA. That's who he is. That's why they're not going to say who he is, because it was developed by the NSA, right? I mean, I do think these things.
Yeah.
Right?
Fair enough. And so I personally don't agree, and I wouldn't put it at the top with as far as it being extremely risky, because I would put it more so towards the middle or lower to the bottom, just because it will be utilized by the public in general, and all the decentralized nature of it, and being able to actually retain the actual keys to your individual coins gives it more of it lessens the risk for me, even though it is electronic. That's my biggest issue. The fact it is an electrical blip on a screen is a problem. So that's why I'm back and forth with it. But I'm not against the technology or that particular coin you referred to. So
yes, but with the keys, right? A, if it can be programmed, it can be hacked. And then B, right, just because you have the keys, we still got to get on to the centralized Bitcoin network, right, to authenticate any kind of transactions. So even if you had Bitcoin stored outside the system, that doesn't mean that it's 100% safe, because you got to still get back online and validate whatever you're doing with that Bitcoin.
100%. And I think, go ahead.
So somebody has your keys, right? And it's impossible to get the keys. Well, I don't think it's impossible to get the keys. But if somebody gets your keys, well, there goes the Bitcoin as well.
Very true. Very true. And so watch this. Yeah, another question. So for all those that want to share your thoughts in chat, feel free to let us know or give us a call. We're going to dial back in a couple minutes. We're at 52 minutes. So let's take this last question. And it says, and somebody highlighted this several times. We got beans and rice. And he says, is it possible to bypass the recession and go right into a depression? What are your thoughts, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's coming, and I think it's going to be very painful. I mean, you know my thoughts on this. I think it's going to be, a full faceted effect, with housing prices going down, job losses coming, stock market going down, gas prices going up, layoffs, store closures. There's even looking right now that there's going to be problems with the food supply coming in the next year. Yeah. So yes, I think that, do not pass, go straight to jail or whatever it is. Yes, I think that we're going to be going, straight from, supposed good times to a depression. Because that's the other thing, right? If we're in a recession now, that is the next step. So, I don't think there's going to be a recession at all. I think it's going to be much, much worse, because technically, we're pretty much already in a recession as it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Whew, that is, I like that. the idea that we are currently in a recession, if you look at all the metrics and measurements and whatever the official things, not what we're being told, then yeah, it's pretty bad now. And so imagine like when the thing really officially starts, according to the powers that be or the mainstream media, hell, all hell gonna break loose. That's when markets crash. That's when people lose a lot of wealth. It's gonna be transferred once it officially happens. So for those that are aware of that, hopefully you are prepared to begin taking, or have begun taking measures into your own hands as far as getting your weight up and getting heavy. And so as we draw towards the end, I want to point you guys to the sponsor of Silver Doctors, and it happens to be sdbullion.com. So as you guys can see on the screen, if you go to sdbullion.com, you can actually take advantage of, cheapest prices on the internet, more than likely. And so with that being the case, Paul, any thoughts before we get ready to log off and call it in for a day until we come back again?
It's going to be a crazy week. So when we get together on Wednesday, that's going to be a crazy day too, because that's FOMC day. We'll be live a little bit before the meeting.
Yeah.
But still, this week, I'm prepared for fireworks this week. So it looks like that's what we're going to see. And just on top of that, the SD Bullion thing, they match prices, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know exactly how that works, so you'd have to call them up and ask them. But they match prices. So, like, if it's like the same exact thing, like a tube of Eagles for this price, they match that, right? Yeah. Now, it's not like, if they have some weird kind of like promotion, they don't do that. But if it's just straight up, they're selling the tube of Eagles for this price, will you match it? Yes, they will.
Yeah.
So that's another good thing about SD Bullion. Not only are they the lowest price, but they'll also price match just to prove that point.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Well, that is great. It's great connecting on Monday, man. I enjoyed this and definitely got a lot more to keep my eyes on as things unfold. But with that being the case, everybody, it's been great hanging out. And if you've enjoyed the back and forth, as always, do not be afraid to donate a thumbs up beneath this video here. Show your support. And as well as share this video so that people can find out what's going on. Because once again, it's not usually until stuff actually unfolds and blow up that people start caring. But perhaps they might be interested before everything unravels officially. So that being the case, it has been great. And I will see you guys later. Peace. Enjoy your day.